Welcome to Out of My Mouth, the program where raw thoughts meet unfiltered conversations.
Join us as we dive into the depths of human experience, where we share stories, perspectives, and insights that just might challenge the status quo.
Get ready to laugh, cry, and ponder the world around you like never before. This is Out of My Mouth.
The views and opinions of our guest and hosts do not necessarily reflect those of New Thought Media Network, or any organization we may be affiliated with. Here at New Thought Media Network, we welcome freedom of speech and courageous conversations. There are many topics that can be difficult to navigate. Challenging the status quo and engaging in lively debate is important to expanding our understanding of one another, and life in general. Creating a peaceful world doesn't happen because no one disagrees, it happens from a willingness to understanding one another. In our programming, we strive to expand consciousness and assist people in creating remarkable lives. Your comments are welcome at info@ntmedia.org.
Good afternoon and welcome to Out of My Mouth here Wednesday afternoon every week. And I am so excited to be here with you today. And I'm Barbara Jean, and my co-hosts are Marg Dubois and Cheryl Rogers. And we are excited to be here with you today as we discuss walking the path of dementia, a different way of being in the moment. And now Marg Cheryl with our land acknowledgement.
Yes, thank you, Barbara Jean. Let us just take a moment to acknowledge the land wherever we are, whichever lands we're on. In the spirit of reconciliation and peace, we are grateful for the opportunity to meet on these sacred lands. We thank the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. We recognize our oneness and we realize our history. We choose to create a new reality. We are one. Miigwech.
Thank you, Cheryl. And now it's my pleasure to introduce today's guest, Wendy Karr. Wendy joined Unity in 1984 and received her licensed Unity teacher status in 2000. Wendy has been a facilitator of Unity courses for over 25 years and has been honored to be made adjunct faculty at Unity Worldwide Spiritual Institute. In 2024, she began co-hosting an online spirit group. What's So Good About the Good Book is the name of the spirit group, and it's a safe space to explore Unity's take on the Bible. At the 2025 Unity Canada Conference, Cheryl and I got to witness Wendy receiving the Northern Light of God Expressing Award. Congratulations on that, Wendy. And Wendy has bravely stepped forward today to speak about dementia, a different way of being in the moment. Welcome, Wendy.
Thank you all. It's good to see you all.
And you.
Yeah.
Is there something first and foremost that you would like to share about your experience?
Well, I think that this is an area that I don't talk about in my work life. It's as anyone who has someone with dementia or another illness knows, it can be very difficult to speak about it, especially if you're in front of strangers, in a lecture setting, and it really is something that I think I can bring some some hope to people. As I was sharing just before we came on air, I have a friend who also is in a similar situation of dealing with his mom. And he didn't realize that he and I were walking a similar path. And we had a really good conversation, a lot of laughter about some of the aspects of dementia, which seems kind of contrary. But we had a really good discussion. And I was so grateful to find another person to add to my circle of support and being able to support others who are walking this path.
So somebody who can relate.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Wendy. In relating, my mom had dementia, as you all know, and she just recently passed. But the humor part, a few years ago, probably 2021, I hadn't seen her in a while, and I went to Blind River to see her with my son. And she's like so excited. Hi, Margie, how you doing? Yada, yada. She goes to bed that night. She wakes up in the morning. She comes down the hallway and says, Margie, when did you get here? 4 days, the same thing in the morning. So she got to be excited 4 days in a row. So that's just me relating to the humor of dementia. And she had excitement too.
That's
Yeah. Did you want to speak to a humorous moment?
Actually, I want to go back first before my mom, because I want to honor my great aunt who also had dementia. And it was my maternal great aunt, the sister of my Nana. And she was my first introduction to being with people in that condition. And I had gone to the retirement home / nursing home. It was one of these buildings where one tower was the lockdown for people with memory issues, and then the other one was more of a retirement community. So her daughter, who had polio and was dealing with post-polio syndrome, lived in the one tower, and then my great aunt lived in the other tower. And every so often, we would arrange that one of us would come into town, and we would all go down to the dining room. And she was really struggling to cut her food. I looked over and I could see her struggle. I could see her embarrassment. And I said, you know, Aunt Izzy, you used to cut my food for me when I was a child. Would it be okay if I paid you back and I'll do this for you? And you could kind of see like a whole slew of emotions at once, like the embarrassment that she couldn't do it, the gratitude that I had offered, and just there was, for a glimmer, there was a moment that she never really knew who I was after a certain point, but she sort of said, oh, you must be okay. Like you could tell in her demeanor that I wasn't a stranger at her table anymore. I clearly was someone who could be trusted and cared about. So walking that path with her for the last, I guess it was 2 or 3 years of her life, kind of gave me the introduction. And then when Mom got her diagnosis, I really was blessed because I had some tools already in my toolbox. Now, the tools I need now are a bit more than that. I take care of her 2 days a week so that my dad can not only have some respite, but run errands. As you can well imagine, it's difficult to push a transfer chair and a shopping cart. So Mom and I will usually go for a road trip someplace. I laugh. My car is only 5 years old, and I'm about to turn 100,000 K on it. And most of that is just driving Mom around 2 days a week. So, yeah, it's been a longer journey than I think I realized. So,
So Mom and Dad still live at home?
yes, yeah. Thankfully, we had gotten them out of the house before her diagnosis. So they're in an apartment condo. Which has had its own issues. At one point, she was found wandering outside during a cold alert day in her house coat and not much more. And so we had to make some adjustments with the agreement of the condo corp and the super that we would change how the front door was locked to ensure that she couldn't escape. Little things like that you don't think of. So Yeah, it's been good because she's, folks know her, they recognize her. So if she does go astray again, we've got a good number of people that will know what floor she's from and
Right.
how to get a hold of the super or dad or something.
So for those of us that have not ever experienced dementia, what is dementia and what is it like for somebody caring for someone with dementia?
So when I think of my mom right now in this instant, I think of her as mom 2.0. She's not the same person that she was before. She's anyone who's familiar with the Finding Nemo series. She's very much like Dory. And just an example, when we go out, one of our traditions is we go to McDonald's. She has celiac disease, so I have to be really careful where I take her to eat and what I give her. And she's a big chocolate fan, so we go get a hot fudge sundae, extra hot fudge. She's worth that extra 40 cents, and a decaf coffee to go with it. And there are days where she'll say, "Is it possible that I could get a coffee?" Yeah, Mom, see the McDonald's over there. That's where we're going to go get you a coffee. We're in the drive-through lane. Is it possible I could get a coffee? Yeah, Mom, I'm just, as soon as I order it, we'll get it. Get the coffee, put it in the little spot next to her. Is it possible I could get a coffee? Yeah, Mom, it's right next to you. That's the span of 5 minutes. And you just kind of get used to that. One of the things I'm finding, and it's almost becoming a spiritual practice. Now, understand, I do not ride roller coasters. My sister does. I do not. I like things like the tilt-a-whirl and the scrambler, things that rotate but stay close to the ground. And it's kind of like being on a roller coaster. I never know what's going to come out of her mouth. I never know what kind of mood she's going to be in. I don't know if she's going to fall asleep in the car with me. I don't know if she's going to be needing something but not able to express what it is. So a lot of my time while we're driving, it will be she's struggling to find the words. And I'm struggling to try and figure out, okay, so we ate a little while ago. Could she be hungry again? Should she need a washroom? Does she need to get out and stretch her legs? So a lot of it becomes kind of second guessing. So in many ways, I sometimes look at it as almost like she's gone backwards and become like a toddler. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but doesn't have the language anymore. And she was an English journalism major, double major. So for her to lose her language, it's really hard. For her to not care about what's happening in the world and not be following the news and have the news on 24/7, that part's just weird. That's just so unlike her. So yeah, I think another example of that is we were out driving and the traffic was just horrific. And I'm focused on that. Now, I always drive with my mom in the back seat. I have the child safety lock on the back seat. I have the child window protector thingy on so that I know she's not going to accidentally open the door thinking she's opening the window. And we were driving along and she was kind of tired that day. So I knew that it was going to be a bumpy roller coaster. And she said, "You're a really good driver." I said, "Oh, thank you." She said, "Yeah, my daughter Wendy is a really good driver too." And that's one of those cases where you could cry because of what it means, or you can laugh. I chose to just say, "Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate those words," and just kind of let it go. If I've learned anything, and Mark, you may have experienced this too, you kind of have to learn how to live in their moment. And trying to pull them into my reality just doesn't work. It didn't work for my auntie, and it didn't work. It's not working for Mom. Sometimes I kind of have to get forceful, and because there's a danger or there's a safety issue. But most of the time, I just try and figure out where she's at and do what I can to support her.
That's absolutely perfect, actually. My father had Alzheimer's, and they both end up sort of in the same place where they're losing their memory and cognitive abilities. And I remember going to visit Dad one time with Genevieve, who at the time she was probably about 5 years old, 4 or 5, and he's looking at her with this very strange look on his face. He was quite distressed. And he goes, "Why is she small? Why is she small now?" He was thinking it was my eldest daughter, who, of course, would have been an adult at that point.
Mm.
He's looking at this little person, and he was quite distressed. And for her, it was mortifying. She was so upset that Grampy did not know who she was. So I had to try and explain to her, as a 4 or 5-year-old,
Mhm.
what was going on with Grampy, why he didn't know her.
Mhm.
And the other thing he would do is, before they put him in the lockdown ward, he would, with his wheelchair, because he had Parkinson's as well, he would take his wheelchair and scoot out the front door and head across the street. There was no crosswalk there, but he would zip across the street and go over to a little plaza that was on the other side of the street. And somebody there would phone the home and say, "Hey, we've got one of yours." And they'd bring him back, and they put an alarm on it thinking that would help. And then they just put him in the lockdown section because he just kept taking off. We were in a way blessed that he was only like really sick with it for about 4 years past. So, because it's hard when they don't know who you are, and yeah, that's life. But
So do they forget everything? Like, is it their short-term memory? What about like long-term memory, like when they were children or when they were, young parents? Do they remember that part or not really?
my dad did. He
Yeah.
would talk about certain things that happened when he was a young adult. Yeah.
With my mom, she would remember some things as a child. Music, that part seems to be often a way of communication, and so I don't think it's cut and dry, Cheryl. I think different experiences for people are what it is with Alzheimer's dementia. And you were talking about dialogue, Wendy. What I found with my mom, beneficial not to correct her. So, the coffee, yes, we'll get you a coffee. Yes, we'll get you a coffee. Or, just repeating what they have said, reassuring them as opposed to, well, I just told you that, and that would annoy me when I would hear people that were having an exchange with mom, well, Mom, I just told you that. Well, no, that's not helpful. And I had a question for you, Wendy, in that does your mom realize that she was a journalist and now this is what she's missing? Does she know this, or?
Early on, she was more aware that something was wrong, and now that's even past. So she's. I find it sort of funny because, I would love to be able to forget all the stuff that has gone on in the last decade or so, and she does, and she doesn't even have to try. So, I think the comparative, though, as a journalism major, when I was a kid and Watergate hearings were on, she was glued to that TV, just totally glued, totally clueless that I was going to be home and I had like 45 minutes to eat my lunch and walk back to school.
Yeah.
And so, for her not to be glued to the set now, I actually kind of got verklempt during the January 6th hearings on the news, because I know Mom would have been. She would have been on the phone to me and said, "Oh, look at that! Did you see the what happened today in who they had in front of the committee?" And we would have had a really good talk about it, and we would. yeah, and that part is gone. That
Mhm.
part is, yeah, there we are.
Mhm. Mhm.
Beautiful.
Down at the Welland Canal. She loves being by water, so I always, no matter where we're going, even if we're going someplace that isn't near the water, I'll make sure that we go by the water to some
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
however long.
Mhm. Wow, what a wonderful daughter you are, really. Some people just stick their parents in a home and visit them, once in the blue moon. So,
Well,
you.
it's because she has celiac. That's made her care more problematic. We've had challenges when she's been hospitalized for something else and they haven't followed her diet, which is given an extra layer of symptoms and conditions to deal with.
Yeah.
Um, I know that Celiac Canada is working very hard to get more education to the homes and hospitals around what celiac is, and it's a gluten intolerance that can be life threatening. In fact,
Yeah.
she was very sick when she did finally get her diagnosis when she was in her 40s.
Mhm.
Usually it's something that shows up in childhood, but she was a late stage person for that.
Mhm.
And because of that, like something as small as she takes a cookie that has gluten in it, that has the potential to land her in hospital. And
Mhm.
because she can't regulate her own food,
Mhm.
it falls to others to do so.
Mhm.
So whether or not we'll be putting her in a home, I don't know. For now, we're able to work it. She and Dad go to an Alzheimer's program once a week, and they do an hour of exercises. And I've been told that I probably wouldn't survive them, that they're quite intense. And
Wow.
then they have an hour of exercise followed by a half hour of social interaction.
Yeah.
So that's and then I pick her up and we do what we do.
Wonderful. I just
I just have to, well, maybe you're going to say something,
Yeah, so
Cheryl.
I just want to say there's nothing wrong with anyone being put in a home, and I also understand that some people can't deal with it. That it's very hard for them, and so that could also be a reason that they don't go very often. So something that you said earlier, that this is like a spiritual journey as well. I think that also is really about how we respond, how we handle things, and each person is different, so I just want to honor that. I think the homes are wonderful, and I've told my kids, put me in a home, right? Because I don't want to be a burden on anybody, but I suppose I wouldn't know if they came to visit me or not, so it wouldn't matter. You know what I mean? It's just it's different for so many different people, and
Yeah,
so I want to just be respectful of that too.
yeah. And I think this is where education comes in as well. I'm glad we're having a conversation about this because there's a stigma as well as having a parent or a loved one need to be placed in a facility because there's a dialogue. Oh, well, we put them in a home, or and there's to have to release care over to other people
Mm.
is can be a very difficult
Yeah.
decision.
I could
Funny
only
story.
imagine guilt, right? Guilt as well. Like all
Guilt
these
and
emotions.
yes, and it's not often an easy thing to do because I don't know of anybody that's gone in willingly. The first time my mother was placed, my brother, when he was going to leave, my mom said to him, well, if I knew this was going to happen, I would have made other arrangements. So it was sort of a humorous thing that we thought of later because she really didn't know what she was referring to.
Mm.
And it's also a safety. For
Mm.
my mom, it was no longer safe for
Mm.
her to be in the house with them, not like even when they were all living in the same
Yeah.
quarters.
Yeah.
It was no longer safe for her. She could have fallen down the stairs or
Yeah.
whatever. So I just needed to clarify
Yeah.
because, like I say, it is a stigma for others as well to
Yeah.
be put in a home.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is a shame, right?
It really is. And then on that note, we're at our halfway point. So we're going to take a little commercial break. You're watching Out of My Mouth on the New Thought Media Network. And our incredible guest is Wendy Karr. And we will be back in just a few minutes. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring. Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hepperlin Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Spiritual Center, Kitchener, Om Center for Spiritual Living, La Mesa, Satya Center, Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for making New Thought Media Network a place to be. Please come be you. And remember, like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Welcome back to Out of My Mouth. And our wonderful guest today is Wendy Karr, and we're talking about walking the path of dementia, a different way of being in the moment. And there's been a couple of comments in the chat. Wendy, do you want to speak to either of those?
Well, I know both of those people. I know both of their situations, and I'm grateful that they shared, because they are part of my support system, and recognize, and I bless and appreciate that they are also walking in this. I describe it as walking in a forest. Because sometimes you have open areas, and sometimes you have like a whole bunch of pine trees, and another area might have, some wildflowers, but we're in the same forest. We're just experiencing it kind of differently. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Good analogy.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I don't, let me just go to the comments. Diana was making some comments, and VG as well. Does somebody want to read them? I think I got it. Oh, there I am. Okay. I did. So VG, she said, in my situation with my parents, it was harder on mom to place dad in a care home. I believe that as their child, it's less hard on me than it is on mom. The partner suffers more.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah, I'm sure that must be very difficult. I can only imagine. And Diana says she's enjoying this discussion. She's finding it an awkward path with a mother who is high functioning and stubbornly independent. So if she tries to help, she's accused of trying to control her mother. And yet she does things like throwing her apartment keys in the garbage, leaving a purse in a grocery store, and giving things away only to accuse them of being thieves. Yeah, so these must be very, very difficult moments. I can only imagine.
I think
Your comments.
Yeah, one of the most challenging moments we faced with my dad, or the one that bothered me the most, was before he went into a home. My brother stopped by their house, and when he was coming in the back, and it was cold out, they live in Calgary, and I think it was probably around 0 degrees that day, and he's laying on the concrete. And Perry goes, "Dad, what are you doing?" He said, "Well, I couldn't get in the house." He had his key around his neck for the house, but here he is laying on cold concrete. It was just so sad to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know who told me a story, and I can't remember. It was so funny. There were two people who knew each other. I think they were like in-laws, like, parents of the husband and maybe the parent, a mother of the bride. And they got, I don't know who this was, so forgive me, but they would just tell me how they were put in the same home. And so she would go and visit her mother, and then she would say, "Mom, I'm going to visit Mom in the other room." Was that you? Oh, please tell the story, Mark. I just love that.
Well, I want to quickly tell the story because I want Wendy to come back in here. But my mother and my sister-in-law's mom were in the same long-term care facility, and they'd be in a joint room where they'd be listening to music. My sister-in-law is with the two of them, and she says to her mom, "I'm just going to go bring mom, blah, blah, blah." And she got really angry. "Yeah, I'm her mother. She's not your mother." So she brought her mom to her room. And then she said, "Okay, I'm going to go get Thelma now." And she's like, "She's here too?" And moments before they were arguing. So she goes and gets my mom and brings her to see her mom in her room. And they were both, "Oh, Thelma, you're here too." So it was in just moments, and you take those moments and you have fun and laugh, not at them, but at the situation where you can.
Absolutely.
And another thing I just wanted to say, that some people with dementia, Alzheimer's, can get dangerous too. So for the caregivers, they need safety and the strength that they can muster up. So that is another concern. Wendy, jump in before we keep talking over you.
Just following up that, I am grateful because when I went to a workshop or a webinar for families with people with Alzheimer's, one of the things that they discussed was the possibility of becoming very physically violent and very angry. And thankfully, Mom is not that. And I'm hoping that she doesn't take a veer down that way. That would be challenging for us. I sort of chuckle. Every so often she'll say something, and I'm not hearing my Nana, I'm hearing my grand-Nana, so my great-grandmother. So we were talking earlier about childhood, and she'll say something that'll be like, "I haven't heard that since the 70s when grand-Nana was alive," but that reflects her older memories.
Right.
Changing the topic just slightly, but something I do want to share and have a discussion about is the challenge of what do you do when they ask for their parents or family members who have already passed on. And I think that's the hardest of the challenges. I can deal with Mom not knowing who I am, and in fact it was kind of a joke that Aunt Izzy and I became much closer once she forgot who I was, because all of a sudden all of her judgments about me disappeared, and we were meeting for the first time every time. And that proved very useful. But with mom, it's part of us wants to say, oh no, your mom's dead. She died back in 1982. And that doesn't help. I don't. So if anyone's watching and wondering, so Wendy, how do you deal with that? So the way I'm dealing with it is we were waiting for my dad to come home from shopping. And she said, well, mother's coming for dinner tonight. And I made a point of walking over to the kitchen calendar and saying, oh, really? It's not on the calendar, Mom.
Mm.
And that just stopped the conversation.
Wow.
So, and then we didn't get into that re-triggering of the grief and the abandonment and, all those things that saying your mom's dead would bring up. And that has been really helpful. And just trying to stay in that space of what is my best answer. And I did have, and as a lay person, with some, my computer needs to be plugged in. There we go. That you don't tell lies, right? You need to be in integrity. And her gerontologist has told us that a couple of years ago, it was time to start therapeutic fibbing. And if you've never heard therapeutic fibbing, it's doing like I did with asking where my Nana was. Oh, I don't see her on the calendar. I know she's dead. I know she's been gone a long time. And it provides an answer. So sometimes
that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Something I never thought of. So thank you.
And it was the truth.
Yeah, exactly. You weren't kidding.
I think the hardest one is when I tell her the truth that my sister is married and is over 50, and she does not want to acknowledge that. No, Mom, I'm not lying. Your younger daughter is now. So have to get that in case my sister's watching.
How old does she feel, your mom? Do you know?
I've tried asking her, and she can't come up with a number. But when I tell her what she's going to be on her next birthday, she'll go, "No, that can't be. I don't feel that old." So, it's.
Yeah.
That's
And going back to the music for a moment. So I've got Sirius in the car. I always put the 50 station on. And it amazes me. A lot of the songs I recognize because Mom played them when I was growing up. And there's some songs I have never heard, and she knows every word.
Yeah.
Because that's such an old memory that it's just.
Yeah. I've heard that something to do with music triggers something that they actually do remember and relate to the music. But so talking about, you were talking about people can be violent and dangerous, and people can be gentle and have great natures. And it sounds to me like both you, Wendy, and you, Mark, because I got the privilege of meeting your mom. She was so lovely. She was so special. She was just such a gentle lady. And I just love how she would come, wake up every morning singing. She would come down the passage singing something like, "Good morning."
Yeah. Good morning to you and you.
And you, and you,
and you should name all the animals and whatever.
Yeah. And she still did that, right?
Yeah, she did up until, as a matter of fact, the first home that she was in, she did that when she walked down to the cafeteria. She started singing that song and saying good morning to everyone.
Yeah.
And she developed a potty mouth in the last year of her life. Yes. This very gentle woman who we couldn't encourage to swear. She learned. Yeah.
And my mom's gone the exact opposite and become the prim Victorian that my great grandmother was. And things come out of my mouth, and she just looks at me, and if looks could kill, we would not be having this discussion.
There's a good example, Wendy, on the differences, right? Because we were saying not two people are alike in their illness, and exact opposites happened with our parents. Yeah.
It's the the brain, right? It's the brain. And the brain is, to me, the body is the most incredible. Every time I think about the body and the body systems and how they work, and it's the same thing with the brain when they do MRIs or they put things on your head and they can measure things. It just boggles my mind how and what the brain can do.
Mm-hmm.
And how it can change. So talking about that, it's like some people might think it's not a physical thing. Like to me, it is. It's a physical thing because it's got something to do with the brain and chemistry. Is there anything that you heard from doctors, from specialists that related to that, or not really?
We were encouraged to do, physio with her or get some kind of physical activity for her.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly she's at a point where her mobility has definitely suffered. And it's clearly that something's not, speaking from her brain down to her legs or, and the challenge, and this is one of those, you got to laugh because you'll cry, is that she's supposed to use a mobility aid, whether it's a cane or a rollator. When I have her, she's in a transfer chair. I don't allow her to walk other than to transfer in and out of the car and into, into a washroom setting. But she forgets that she needs that.
Right.
So, I don't need that. Yeah, the doctor says you do. So you were talking about how the body works. To me, it's how her brain works in its own unique way. It just boggles my mind sometimes when I look at her and say, how does your brain do that? How? I don't understand how.
Yeah. It's very interesting. So when you say to her, the doctor says you do, does she? Is that enough reason for her?
Immediately, but
Okay.
so the other day we had that discussion. So she was coming out of her ensuite, and I had the rollator ready for her because I knew she was tired. She had fallen asleep a couple times in the car. So, okay, so high alert. We'll make sure she walks down the hall to the living room using the rollator. And she gets into the living room and leaves it to the side and continues walking without it. And it's like, well, I don't know why I need that. So, yeah.
Wow, that's good to know. Tracy Bowie says PSWs have really great training now in dementia and other brain issues. That's really wonderful. Good to hear. Thank you, Tracy.
Yeah. We have a PSW come in once a week, and she actually is responsible for doing mom's bath or her shower every week. And that takes that concern off Dad. It allows him to be her partner rather than her washer-upper, which I think helps. And we've had wonderful people come and really take good care of her.
That's so important that you remain her child and your father remain her spouse. So I'm glad to hear that you have someone to help with her care in that way, Wendy.
I am too. Next month, less than a month away, they will celebrate their 60th wedding anniversary.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's really, really remarkable.
So one of the things I did, they met in university. So one of the things I did was I found where all of the yearbooks from their time in university had been stashed and got those out. So they've been going through that. And a lot of the memories around that are still, they're a little fuzzy, but they're certainly clearer than what she ate for lunch last week.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like anything new doesn't quite stick.
Yeah.
It's the older stuff that maybe comes up.
A sidebar here. You just triggered another memory. Thanks, Rebbe. So when I got my car, long story, but I had very little time to make a decision. And by this point, I had been taking Mom out for drives, and I noticed how she observed blue cars. So I found that the blue that was for the model that I was buying was very nice. Actually, it's a very nice blue, almost the color of my shirt. And so that was the car I bought, not for me necessarily, but for Mom. And to this day, every time, oh, look at that blue car. Yeah, Mom, that's your car? I get to ride in it? Yes, Mom, you get to ride in it. And we were in a McDonald's one time, and I had sat the blue spot was right outside the table where we were sitting. And I could tell she was just fixated on something outside, and I kind of looked and I'm like, she's looking at my car. And I said, what you looking at, Mom? That blue car out there. That's a really nice car. I said, would you like to go for a drive in it? Yeah. Oh, do you think I could? Yeah, Mom, it's my car. So, we have this kind of.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. Did you mention why you take your mom to McDonald's?
Oh, for her hot fudge sundae with extra hot fudge.
Oh, you did say that. Yes.
And a Diet Coke or a decaf coffee, no caffeine for her. And I get a Diet Coke and a muffin. And we'll either, if it's a nice day, we'll sit in the car. Or if it's really cold, we'll sit in the car with the heater on, so I don't have to get her out and put her back in because the mobility. So it's
I was thinking of ice cream. You always say ice cream, and I was like, hot fudge sundae. Oh, that's an ice cream. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's gluten-free at McDonald's. So if anybody out there has celiac or gluten intolerance, McDonald's soft serve is gluten-free.
Wow, good to
it's
know.
About those are basically the two things she can eat there.
Wow.
French fries.
Oh, okay, yeah. But her cardiologist doesn't want her to eat deep fried food, so you got to make the compromises.
Yep. Yeah.
Whoever said aging would be good and fun.
And it would be easy, right?
That it would be easy. Like we get to retire. We don't have to work anymore. How great would that be?
Mm-hmm. What century do we live in?
It just isn't working out that way because everything's falling apart.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm speaking.
Well, I'm retired and I do tons of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the other thing I hear from retired people is they don't know how they ever had time to work. They're so busy now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what is the most difficult part for you with your mom right now? Like that you miss, and what is the most joyful part of being with your mom?
So Mom had been so into politics and international relations and all that. And she very much took after our great uncle, who was actually a diplomat. And I suspect that he was the one that started her generation on it, with questions about what was happening. So I miss those discussions, and I reconnected with one of my cousins, and that's usually all we talk about is all the things that we don't have a parent to talk about with what's going to think about this. The thing that brings me joy, I think, is her gratitude. Not that my mom wasn't a thankful person, but when I get her in the car, she and Dad and I usually have a meal together before I take her for the day, so that we connect. And she will get in the car and she'll say, "Oh, thank you for doing this for me. Thank you for taking me out." And I'll hear that quite a bit. And even if we're stuck in traffic, she'll be so grateful for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that her family of origin didn't do a lot of. They weren't particularly demonstrative of their feelings. So for her to say thank you, the amount that she does, I don't hear it as thank you. I hear it as I love you.
Yeah, beautiful. Yes. So I wonder if people who are listening would like to share something in the chat about something that they some good memory that they have, even though that they're experiencing the challenges with a parent going through dementia?
I have a funny memory of when Dad was in the nursing home. He at this point was bedridden and didn't really know much of anything that was going on. But my father was a joker. He was always telling jokes, pretty off color ones mostly, but definitely a jokester all of his life. And so he's in there. He's no longer that communicative, and he there's a woman down the hall, and I don't know if at one time maybe she was a singer or something, but the entire time I'm there, all through the day, whatever, she just never stopped. She would be like, oh, like this all the time. It was constant. And so Dad one day is, like I say, hardly communicating or anything, and the nurse comes in and he starts, oh, like this, and she's looking at him like, what? And then he grins and she goes, oh, you asshole, or something, right? Like she told him off. But that was him. He was a joker, and even at that point when he had little left to give, he found a way to make the nurse laugh. She laughed so hard she almost wet her pants. It was so unexpected and so funny. Yeah.
Yeah, that's precious.
We were talking about music and what surfaces for people with dementia and Alzheimer's. And when recorded a program, Magic Moments, I think it was, and the 4 races and the 4 tops and the 4 this and that. And so one of the last times Mom was here, we said, oh, Mom, we have this to play for you, and she sang along with all of the songs. The show is over, and about 5 minutes later, Mom, would you like to watch? You have that, like it was. We could play it over and over again for her, and it was a cool experience for her every time.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that is beautiful. Yeah, it's heartwarming to hear that you can take away some good memories from a very difficult situation.
Absolutely.
And I know that some people do go the other way and become violent and angry and all the rest of it. And yeah, I can only imagine that's very hard. So I would encourage memories from before that, for people to hold in their hearts.
And I wonder if
Wendy, are you going to have a party? You said sorry, Barbara. You said they're celebrating their 60th. Are you going to have a party?
We aren't. We have discovered that taking Mom to a restaurant is, other than there is one restaurant we go to twice a week. We eat there. We have known the servers and the head chef since the restaurant opened, and we actually knew the 3 of them at the restaurant that they all worked at before that. So we've been with them about a decade. So they've watched Mom decline. And I had to laugh that, they say that Cheers was where everybody knows your name. No, this place is where they not only know our name, they know our order, they know our pattern. If we don't show up, I will get a text. Are you guys okay? So while I was in Calgary, I got notes. So we will, the immediate family will go there because it's a safe space.
Wow.
And
awesome.
We will, yeah. So that's been our go-to for everything. We've tried taking her, to a place like Swiss Chalet, and it just was too overwhelming for her. So let's keep, something where we're all feeling calm and it's not disruptive. So Rev B, you were about to say something.
I was just curious about the people who become violent. If part of that is frustration because the people around them are correcting them constantly, saying, no, that's not the case, it's this. That if that, I don't know, I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know.
I think it's because they can't cognitively think. I wonder if it's more of a part of the brain that's being triggered or something, you know what I mean? That's, you know, we all have a wonderful side to us, as we know, and we all have a not so wonderful side to us. So which one is being triggered, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I just want to say, because we're coming to the end, and I just, hold in my heart anybody here who's experiencing, going through, having a loved one with dementia. I'm surrounding you in love and light, and just holding you in my heart, knowing that it doesn't matter what it looks like and what it seems, they are still the people that you remember, and they are whole, healthy, and complete in their essence.
Yeah. And with this last 4 minutes, Wendy, what is one thing you would like people to take away from this show? Like, what would be the most important thing, do you think?
I've been thinking about that, and I really think self-care is vital.
Oh, yes.
That whole thing about, on the airplane, the oxygen mask, that if you're not taking care of yourself, as much as you want to take care of your loved one, if you're not taking care of yourself, you're doing a disservice to both.
Mm-hmm.
That's very wise, very wise.
What
about you, Mark? Oh, sorry,
yeah.
Wendy.
No, I was just going to say, having been a caregiver for others, I had to learn that the hard way. So I'm grateful that I know that now, so that I can be more effective this time around.
Good job. Good job. Mark, what about you?
Absolutely, Wendy. Self-care for the caregivers is paramount. I totally agree with that. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to reminisce about my mom and some of the special moments. Thank you.
I think self-care and something that Wendy said that really resonated with me is finding others, maybe even a support group with people who are going through the same thing, because you know that they can relate in a way that nobody else can.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's part of self-care.
Absolutely. And I agree, self-care being probably the most important thing for the caregivers. And the thing that stands out for me is that not correcting them when they have forgotten something, but just going with it, rolling with it. I think that, as you shared stuff about that, Wendy, I think that is so much more respectful. It's honoring where they are, not where you are. And I think that's probably the greatest gift you could give yourself as well as your parents. So that's beautiful. Well, thank you, my beautiful sisters, Cheryl and Mark. I always love doing this show with you. It's such a joy. And Wendy, what a great, great guest you've been. And I'm so delighted that you were here to share what you know about this very difficult topic. A lot of people are living through this or caring for people who are, and it is definitely difficult. And for those of you watching, just know that we're here every week, and so you can come back next week and find out what we're talking about then, and making sure that no topic is off the chopping block. We'll take them all. We'll talk about anything. So you're watching Out of My Mouth here on the New Thought Media Network, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And let us know if you have a topic that you would like us to discuss. We'd love to hear from you. So have a wonderful week, everyone, and I look forward to seeing you all again next week. Bye for now.
Bye for now.
You.
Bye.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network, come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace and blessings.